for CSC151, and this is going to be our little fun with integers video. Now, what we're going to do in this, and really when it comes to doing fun things with numbers, first thing that comes to my mind is randomizing them. So, a couple of new things we're going to learn on this. First and foremost, we're going to learn about importing. So, what is importing? Importing is basically taking something from elsewhere and putting it into our program. Hence, we're importing it. And much like those things, we're importing classes. So every single one of these classes has a different bunch of stuff that we can edit as well. Much like how in the previous video we edited our strings and we edited our variables. Much like those variables, we can edit things about them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import random. Okay? And random is a class. It has a bunch of stuff I can do about it. So I can do a random.random range, a random integer, a random choice. I can do stuff like that. So for example, if I have a example integer, and example integer equals, something between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I can do, say maybe my choice, which is the name of my variable here, and say equals random dot choice of my example integer. Example integer. So that now when I print my choice, execute this, I got a 6. It was a random choice out of this list of objects I showed it. Same thing over here. I'll hit execute again, and now it's a 3. Hit execute again, and this time it's a 2. Hit execute again, this time it's a 6 again. And, now it's a 7. It's randomly selecting between one of these choices because it was a random choice. Now, there's other things you can do. So, let me just print this out. So let's just say, let me just print out, the random choice is that. Okay, we'll just move that over there. But that's not the only thing we can do. Okay, we cannot just only do a random dot choice. We could also do a, let's just say, I'll name this my int. Okay, my int equals a random dot rand int. And I'll make it a random int between 1, that's my starting point, and my ending point being 9. So I can get the same sort of situation, but this time, copy the random integer is, my int. Oops, and I need to have commas in here or else this is not going to work. So, execute. Now we have my int is not defined because I hit cint, not int. There we go. So now I have a random choice is 5. The random integer is 6. And this time it's 5 and 4. And this time it's 5 and 9. This time it's 1 and 1. It's randomized. But it's randomized 2 different ways. I used a random int here. I used a random choice right here. So a choice will make a selection out of numerous possible selections inside a bucket or inside a variable. The random integer will choose between a start point and an end point. The third way we could do this is with a random range. So I'll name this my range. My range is equal to random dot. Once again, we're going further into the random class with that dot. We're changing something about it. And I'll say rand range. And this time, well, you know what? I'm going to go with a 9, right? Because I've just been ending all these things with 9. You think that would make the most sense, right? And I'm going to keep doing this over and over again just to showcase why this is wrong. But it's okay. We wouldn't know this until we got here. Equals my range and execute. So I got, once again, it looks like I'm getting random numbers. I'm getting an 8, getting a 4, getting a 5, I'll make this really easy for it to do by just going a random range of 1. And you'll notice I have a 0, but my range is 1. How do I get a 0 with a range of 1? Well, once again, remember that the data is different from the memory slot. Okay? So if I have, the data of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, remember that our memory slots are actually going 0, 1, 2, 3. So slot 1 in data is actually a 0. I actually got that in reverse. The data should be up here, the memory slot should be right here. So just reverse this in your brain. Matter of fact, let me do that. let me fix that so it actually makes sense when we look at it. So even though it's the memory slot of 1, the data is 0. 0 is a number. It is the first slot of your data. So everything you have on a range is going to be 1 less than you think. So when I was getting the 8, I was actually in slot 9. So what I would have to do then, if I want to 9 and I don't want to have a 0, is I would just need to add a +1 to the end of this range, no matter what. I could do it this way, or I could do it like right here and say, +1 on that part instead. I like just putting it inside the actual place where I call it, where I declare it. So now we'll get all this sort of stuff, and look, now we've got a random choice, an integer, and a range, and they're all different randomized numbers. And you see we were actually able to get a 9 there. So we've got all these different things right here, and it all generally works. It's 3 different ways to make a random number, all using the random class, but they're using it in 3 different ways. I personally find random ints to be the easiest because there's the start point and the end point, but you can do random choices as well if you're maybe getting a word from a word bank. You can't only just do random numbers, you can do random words. If you're going to play like a game of Hangman and you need multiple different words to pick from, same with a random range, you could use that as well. And of course, much like always, we can always add these things together. Print, the total is, and we can always just add these guys together to a number, to any number we want. We can do, say, so my range, remember to put the comma there, my range plus my int plus my choice. Okay, and we can execute this, and there will be, in fact, totals. See, 5 plus 3 plus 1 is 9. You can still add these guys all together. They still have all the same functions. And you know what? In the same sort of situation, let me just make a little space here. We also have, let me just make a my number equals, we can also input numbers. We can input numbers as well. We went over inputs in the last video, but we can do inputs with numbers as well. So let me put a type, let me put a string here and say type a number here. And I'll remember to press enter to confirm. And we can just do, and let's just add my number to this as well. Okay? Let's add my number to this. Tell me, are you going to see immediately what's wrong with this? Where I say this and adding this. So, when I execute this, and I'll type in a number, I don't know, I'll put a 5. And here it goes, unsupported operand types for plus, integer, and string. Every single time you do an input, you're being asked to type something. Because you're being asked to type something, it expects that what you're typing is a string. And as we've gone over before, we cannot add an integer and a string. It does not recognize that I typed a 5. It recognized that I typed text. So the way I have to fix that is, once again, put an integer around the input, so that whatever I'm inputting is actually an integer. Now, when I execute this, and I say, it's a 5, it now knows it's a number. It's an integer of 5. The random number is 6 and 3, so that's 9, 15 plus my 5 equals 20. So I got all 4 of these different numbers now adding together. So that is my little fun with integers video. We've just used 4 different ways to print out integers or get integers in different ways. So once you got something that looks like this, go ahead, save it, upload it. See you in the next video, because coming next week, you guys are going to be doing the big project. This is going to be the work on your own. So I guarantee, go back and look at the previous videos on Python of integers and strings and variable types. And we're going to go over this, and because you're going to be putting it to the test now. Okay? So see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Have fun.